Some of the greatest discoveries in history are complete and total accidents. But we're not talking about just stumbling upon something in a lab. We're talking about finding an entire world based on a math mistake that nobody noticed for like 100 years. Well, strap in because that is the incredibly bizarre and fascinating story of Pluto. So how does that even happen? How do you discover a planet by mistake? Let's dive into this cosmic detective story, where for the better part of 150 years, astronomers were hunting for a cosmic culprit that, as it turns out, never even existed in the first place. Our story kicks off way before anyone had ever heard the name Pluto. It all starts with a wobble, a tiny, unexplained stutter in the orbit of a planet that sent the world's best astronomers on a wild goose chase for a phantom in the sky. Okay, so here's how it all went down. Back in 1781, we spot the planet Uranus, but right away, something's off. Its orbit is just wobbly. It isn't following the rules. So astronomers guessed something massive must be out there, pulling on it. And sure enough, in 1846, they find Neptune right where they predicted it would be, a huge win for science. But here's the kicker. Even with Neptune accounted for, Uranus was still wobbling a little bit. The only explanation they could come up with was another, even bigger planet, a mysterious Planet X, lurking out in the darkness. This idea absolutely obsessed an astronomer named Percival Lowell, who basically dedicated his life and his observatory to finding it.
So Lowell dies, but the hunt goes on. And then, in 1930, it looked like the case was finally cracked. The investigators, they thought they had their phantom.
The job fell to this young guy, Clyde Tombaugh, who was only 23 years old. And his task was, unbelievably tedious. Can you imagine trying to find one single tiny moving dot, a needle in a cosmic haystack, against a backdrop of literally millions of stars? And this is how he did it. Tombaugh would take photos of the same exact patch of sky on different nights. Then he'd use this machine called a blink comparator, which would just flip back and forth between the two images really fast. All the distant stars would stay put, but a planet, something closer, would look like it was jumping. And on February 18th, 1930, after who knows how many hours of staring at these plates, he saw it. One tiny dot that had moved. And bam! Just like that, the world went wild. They'd found Planet X. The great mystery of the wobbly planets was finally solved. A new member had officially joined our solar system's family. Of course, the new world needed a name, something that fit its home in the cold, distant darkness. And the winning suggestion, Pluto, actually came from an 11-year-old girl in England. Pretty cool, right? But, as our telescopes got better and better, a pretty big problem started to emerge. Astronomers began to realize something just wasn't adding up. At first, they thought Pluto was as big as Earth. Then, by 1948, the estimate was down to maybe the size of Mars. The prime suspect was shrinking. The real shocker came in 1978, when we discovered Pluto's moon, Charon. By watching Charon's orbit, scientists could finally get an accurate read on Pluto's mass. And the result was just staggering. Pluto's mass is a mere 0.2% of Earth's. It was way, way too tiny to be tugging on giants like Uranus or Neptune. It just couldn't be Planet X. And this, of course, kicked off a brand new mystery. If Pluto wasn't the culprit, then what in the world was pulling on the outer planets? The phantom was still out there. And then came the biggest plot twist of all. The answer to what was pulling on Neptune was nothing. Absolutely nothing. See, in 1989, the Voyager 2 spacecraft flew past Neptune and gave us the first super accurate measurement of its mass. And it turned out the old calculations were off by just 0.5%. Now that doesn't sound like a lot, but when you're talking about planets, it's huge. Once scientists plugged the correct mass into their equations, the wobble in Uranus's orbit, it just completely vanished. There never was a Planet X. Pluto's discovery was a complete and utter cosmic accident. So, okay, Pluto was an accidental discovery, but it was still a planet, right? Well, that's where the next kind of controversial chapter of its story begins. Because as our technology kept getting better, the very definition of what a planet even is was about to be challenged. So in 2005, astronomers found Eris, another world way out past Neptune. And get this, it was actually more massive than Pluto. This created a huge problem. Was Eris planet number 10? What about all the other icy bodies we were starting to find out there? Astronomers basically had two choices, either start adding potentially hundreds of new planets to the roster, or change the rules of the game. They chose to change the rules. In 2006, the International Astronomical Union, the IAU, laid down 3 brand new conditions that an object has to meet to officially be called a planet. So let's run Pluto through the checklist. Does it orbit the sun? Yep, check. Is it round because of its own gravity? Yep, check. But has it cleared its orbital neighborhood? Nope. And that one, little x, is the rule that got Pluto demoted. So what does clearing the neighborhood even mean? Well, think of it this way. A real planet is the gravitational king of its own orbit. It either sucks up all the little debris or just flings it away. But Pluto lives in the Kuiper Belt, a place that's basically our solar system's junkyard, and it's just teeming with millions of icy rocks and comets. Pluto simply isn't big enough to boss all that other stuff around. So Pluto lost its official planet status. And yeah, a lot of people were bummed out. But this isn't a sad story. Not at all. Because what we discovered next revealed that Pluto was so much more special than just being the 9th planet. It was an incredible world of wonders, all on its own. And all the credit for this part of the story goes to NASA's New Horizons spacecraft. It flew past Pluto back in 2015, and the secrets it uncovered, well, they were just mind-boggling. Before New Horizons got there, this is pretty much what scientists were expecting to see. A dead, frozen world, probably covered in craters, basically just a boring ball of ice at the edge of the solar system. But the reality? Wow. The reality was absolutely breathtaking. The images New Horizons sent back showed a complex, colorful, and geologically active world. We're talking reds, whites, oranges, even a hazy blue atmosphere. It was stunning. And the things we found there were just incredible. A giant heart-shaped plain made of flowing nitrogen ice. Ice volcanoes, they call them cryovolcanoes, that erupt a cold slush of water and ammonia. We found out it has a warm core that's constantly resurfacing parts of the planet. And there might even be a liquid water ocean hidden deep beneath its icy shell. This was anything but a dead world. And that's really the key takeaway here. Pluto might not fit our new, stricter definition of a planet, but that doesn't make it any less amazing. It's not a failure. It's the king of an entirely new category of worlds, the largest and most complex world we know of out in the Kuiper Belt. And that leaves you with one last really cool thought. We found this incredible, active, complex world completely by accident in a region we used to just write off as a cosmic junkyard. It really makes you wonder, what other accidental discoveries and amazing treasures are still out there, just waiting for us in the dark?